Okay, well, we have one more person before lunch, Mr. Hans Zonneveldt, who's a country taxi operator. So if you'd like to come forward. And could you state your name and your interest in the inquiry and so on?
Okay, my name's Hans Zonneveldt. Zonny means sunny and Veld is a field, so you can say Sunnyfield if you like. It's pretty difficult, the other one.
Zonneveldt, I think I've got it.
Zonneveldt,
Yep.
yes. Okay, I'm a country operator. I reside in the town of Cobram. The other side of the river, Murray River, is Brugger. So my taxi company covers both sides of the river. We operate from a kitchen table at home. We don't have the all our taxi telephone calls come through the car. We don't have anyone sitting on phones at home and answering and then allocating. Everything's done from home. I'm a taxi driver, a taxi owner, a motor mechanic, an office bearer, a letter writer, a doctor, and all those other things that come along with taxi driving. So country taxi in its own is a totally different episode than it is in the city. And unfortunately, this inquiry generally has become a city-centric thing, and consequently we've become a casualty of the problems of the city in the course of the proceedings. I just want to, there's a few things here I'd just like to bring forward with relation to country taxis. I have 3 taxis and a hire car in my town. Not all those cars are worked through the week. We have one car sitting in the shed all week to put up with some of the weekend work. And that is generally Friday, Saturday night, and maybe for 2 or 3 hours. So through the rest of the week, the town's very happy, but once you get to the 2 or 3 hours on the weekend, there's a problem there. But because of our proximity, a lot of our customers, or some of our customers, don't live within the town. They might live 20 k's away, and consequently one of the town has to go that far. He's gone for 20 or 25 minutes or 30 minutes, so that brings us back to 2. And then someone else wants, say, to go to Tokemall, there's another half an hour gone and we're left with 1. So it's a totally different thing to what the city's like. It'd be lovely if we run around town all night and do all locals all night, which I'd prefer to do because you get better paid miles. But unfortunately in a country situation, that's just not how it is. We've had 3 fare rises in 12 years, and I think it's about time now that the system change with regard to fare rises. There needs to be a formulation in place to replace the one that we have at the moment that is more conducive to an annual rise rather than a 3 or 4 year gap and then a big rise and then everyone complains. You've probably heard that 1,000 times, but how true it is. I'm also concerned about the 50-50 split, or the 40-60 split. I'd love to give my drivers some more money, but I can't afford to. My wife's had to go back to work to keep things going in my town. If it wasn't for her working, we wouldn't have much superannuation at all. So, you know, in a country town, it hurts like hell.
And one thing I didn't quite get, the 3 licences that you mentioned in the one hire car, who owns them?
I do.
You own the lot?
I own everything, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so my wife's gone back to work so we can sort of retire when it's time. Another thing that really stands out to me and I'm a bit angry about is there should be some sort of evidence of work cover payment. I believe that there are quite a number of operators around here and also in the country that don't pay any work cover at all. And I just think there should be a prerequisite of an evidence of work cover payment put into your plan. We have satellite towns around our area, and the idea of having transport available to those people would be wonderful, but expensive for me. If I went and bought, a bus for that sort of thing, it would just be beyond me. But I can see the need for others in those satellite towns wanting to come into town for their doctors, shopping, social entertainment or whatever, particularly the elderly folk, because we're in a soldier settlement area, and a lot of those people are now well into their 80s and they need to get out. We have some border issues as well. The one recently came to fruition was we're no longer being paid for what taxi payments in New South Wales. In Victoria we get $15.40. In New South Wales they get $8.47, but because we are not accredited New South Wales drivers, we don't get paid that fee. Although the what accreditation does cover is supposed to be Australia-wide now, but New South Wales have decided that theirs wasn't. So we've been out of pocket for quite a while now with New South Wales what fees. I don't think it's fair. Safety cameras. Although we only have 3 taxis in our town, it'd be great if we could get one in each car, but expensive again, small town. And the other thing is, with the safety camera issue, is it should be able to be downloaded by the local police station rather than having to get people up from Melbourne to do it. Enforcement of alcohol in taxis and also fare evasion is a problem in our area. Although there is a fine for taking open alcohol into taxis, we can't enforce it. They just say, who's going to do that for you? Who's going to book me, So it is a problem, but generally, just for country taxis, we're struggling, really struggling, particularly the smaller towns. We do it all, and we just need some help. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for coming along, and we're happy to hear from you. On the fares, you're aware our recommendation is to lift the restrictions, to leave it up to you what fares you set. You'd have to notify the regulator in advance of what it is, and there's probably a couple of details to work out. The idea of notifying the regulator is to cover the fear maybe that there might be someone who is tempted to change the price on the spot, one night or something, there's a demand. So you'd have to notify in advance, but subject to that, you'd set your own fares.
Yeah. I think that's a very difficult thing to do, and to also fit in with what the rest of the country town operators are doing as well. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to set taxi fares per se in each town. I still think there should be a formulation put together, similar. I've probably seen it in my submission to New South Wales, where they have, a cost of operation there, whether it be insurance and work cover and all that. They've got a formulation that covers all of that, and they review it every 12 months, and it works very fine. I'd be more than happy with something like that. Obviously, things change in country towns often. Our fuel prices have been incredible, and then they go down and they come up. So it's a very difficult situation. The other thing is too, when I want to put on another car, I don't want to have to go through 3 months of anguish through the application system. I've got to put it out to tender and all this sort of thing. If I'm wanting to put on another car, I'd like to do it fairly quickly. And I'm the one that had realised that I need another car. Like you can tell through your passenger base that, gee, we've got to improve in that area there. I'm going to put another car on. I don't want to be waiting for 3 months for that to happen. So maybe you could clear that issue up for me. All right, thanks very much.
Just if I can ask you a question about that. I mean, so I was just pondering on your earlier comment that you saw a need for transport to and from other towns.
Yes.
But you didn't see yourself providing that. I understood you to say. Is that
I'd provide it, but I'd need some assistance with regard to buying and purchasing vehicles, put them on the road, and then keeping them busy. That's the problem. We have peak times, you know, so that's the problem.
And you also alluded to the delays and so on of the current system. I wonder how you see the recommendation that the inquiry's made in the draft report on licensing at this stage, because under the system that's proposed, you would be able to obtain a licence without going through a public interest test. And moreover, if you weren't prepared to do work that was there and needed, presumably someone else would be able to do that.
That's probably correct.
Sorry?
With regard to the first part of your question, oh no, I've lost it. What was it? Sorry, what was it again?
It was just about the service to other towns that you saw needed, but you weren't in a position to do that, or you didn't feel you were in a position to do that. So I suppose my question is, do we need a system that will allow others to do that?
Well, I suppose they have a system in a way with these associated council cars and all those sort of things in place at the moment. But I don't think they do local, they do mainly out of town stuff, you know, as in Melbourne and back to Shep and wherever. Well, someone else might have to come in and do that if that's the case. But the way it sits at the moment, nobody's doing it. And from the bus service that tried a system from Tungamar right through to Cobram in the last 12 months, they gave it away in the end because there weren't enough people doing it. So maybe that's the answer.
And I just want, picking up your point about drivers and so on, can I ask what your drivers are engaged, what terms you engage your drivers on now?
The yellow, what's it called? Hang on a sec. What's it called? That's it. The bailment agreement. They all sign a bailment agreement. And they're all happy with that. I heard nobody complain about it.
So what split do you have in terms of who and
50-50.
50-50, and you're paying the fuel and all that sort of stuff?
Yes, I pay everything, and they take 50%.
But your submission is that 60-40 is not a feasible proposition
Well,
for your
not
circumstance?
For me. Not in my circumstance, no. We struggle now. I'm quite willing to give you my last 3 or 4 years of financial reports, if you like, and it'll show that that's not feasible in a lot of ways. That's why my wife's gone back to work.
And just a final query in terms of what you said. Do I take it that not all your vehicles are on the road all the time, if you like? You're not continuously operating?
No, they're not on the road all the time because there's insufficient work at times of the day for them.
Yep.
And in order to keep the drivers earning some decent money, you have to juggle between sometimes what the customer wants and do I keep the driver happy too. It's a very difficult situation.
Yep.
You know, I certainly want them to earn some good days, so I've got to keep giving them the work. But I can find 3-4 times a week through the day, cars sitting in the shed, and Saturday morning, car sits in the shed, only comes out Friday night, Saturday night. So we've got to keep those things going, even though we're not making good money out of them. We should be. They're not really. They might be covering themselves, and that's about it.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, we're looking at 3 or 4% profit a year. That's just not good enough.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
for coming. Good.